So the quadratic formula is something we can use really to solve any quadratic equation. The only condition really is that the quadratic equation needs to be written in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So as long as we are in general form and equal to 0, we can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula just has us use the coefficient of the quadratic term, the coefficient of the linear term, and the constant, and substitute them into the formula to solve this quadratic equation. So the quadratic formula, I'm sure a lot of you have it memorized, looks like this. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So let's use the quadratic formula to solve that quadratic equation that we couldn't factor, that wasn't factorable. So let's try that out. Let me make that smaller. Alright, so here is that equation one more time that we were trying to factor but couldn't successfully factor. So we had x squared minus 4x minus 10 equals 0. So I like to record my a, b, and c before I plug it into the quadratic formula. So our a, our coefficient on the x squared term, is just 1. Our b value is negative 4. And our c value is negative 10. And now I can just fill in the formula. So x equals negative b, so negative, or the opposite of, negative 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 4 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is negative 10, all over 2 times a, which is 1. And then what remains to be done once we have substituted in the a, b, and c in the formula is we just need to carefully evaluate and use the order of operations to find our x values. So here's usually what I do next. I just simplify things kind of one more step. So negative 4 is just a positive 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 squared is 16. And then minus, we have 4 times 1 times negative 10. So 4 times 1 is 4, times negative 10 is negative 40. And so minus a negative 40 is really going to look like a plus 40, all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. And then simplifying that further, x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 56, all over 2. And then we could maybe leave the answer this way. You could make it a little bit simpler by actually carrying out some division. So I might rewrite this as x equals, I could do the 4 divided by 2, which is just 2, plus or minus the square root of 56. And that still also needs to be divided by the 2. So this would be a way to leave your answer if you were looking for an exact answer. But we also could use a calculator to get some decimal approximations. So on my calculator I could just type in 2 plus the square root of 56 divided by 2. and I get about 5.74. And then 2 minus the square root of 56 divided by 2, and I get negative 1.74 approximately. And sometimes it'll make more sense to actually get some decimal values and round them. At other times it might be preferred to leave your answer as an exact answer.